Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Shot of Nostalgia. We are on the 28th episode where we are jumping down that deep dive into 1996 WCW. We're hitting that tail end, brother. We're running with some smoke, some dust. We're going through all of it. But tonight, we got 2 episodes of Nitro, and you ain't going to want to miss this. As always, I am good old Mike Belcaster, and joining me, as always, the one and only, the one bad man.
Live from the No Cell Studios, this is the Ace of the Tavern, Stephen ACEFIELD. We are here on a Friday to get our weekend started. For some of you, it's the Halloween celebration of a lifetime, so maybe some of you guys are dressed in costume, getting ready to go out for the night for your Halloween parties. Hopefully we can prime you guys with, your pregame. Take some shots with us for the DQ and the no contest, because God knows we have a whole bunch of those to get through.
Hell yeah. It's going to be a good one, man. These were 2 really great episodes of Nitro. Well, I mean, there were 2 great episodes of Nitro. They weren't bad.
They were there. They were definitely episodes.
They were there. Eric Bischoff. Everybody's just in the little bubble. It's good stuff. But yeah, spooky season's done here at the Belcaster house. This is the last time you're going to see the cobwebs, the candles. For now. But
They'll be back.
They'll be back. But I'm excited to be here with you, Ace, my homeboy. This is going to be fun, as always it is. And happy Friday, everybody. Happy Halloween, because we are getting there, and you're not going to see us again until November. Mariah Carey is going to be playing on the radios. All I want is for Christmas. It's ridiculous. We're getting into this weird bubble of pre-Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas. It just blends together. So
I can hear the Thanksgiving song by Adam Sandler starting to rev up its engine.
Turkey do all night long. I'm all for it. I was just singing I made Slappy Joes for the kids tonight. I was singing the Slappy Joe. Slappy Joe, Slappy Joe, yeah.
So as Belcaster mentioned, we will be reviewing 2 episodes of Nitro, the November 25th, 1996, and the December 2nd, Monday Nitro. 2 episodes jam-packed with action. Some interesting things went down. I mean, we're building up towards STARRCADE, and this is the finale of our 1996 journey, and it's a shame it has to end, but has to get somewhere. We'll make our way to 1995 ECW, but let's hope we go off on a high note with STARRCADE. What do you remember about this build, and what do you remember about STARRCADE watching back in 1996?
I remember a lot of NWO clusterfucking going on, as we see, but as they grow, which they do, and Eric Bischoff, once Bischoff comes in, it's like the flood doors are open. Everybody and anybody's welcome. As long as you turn on somebody, we're gonna be good. This is great. Let's get some spray paint. Let's make it a festive time. No way to ring in the new year without spray painting your homie's back. Imagine if I brought you into somewhere and I just started beating your ass and spray paint you on the back. I would feel terrible, first off, but like, who does that? This isn't something we do in 2022. Maybe in the late 90s, which, I mean, we're quite there, but it's ridiculous.
Spray paint became way too normalized in 1996. They used it, and we first saw it being used with Hulk Hogan on the side of that trailer, the media truck trailer, and then it just becomes all over the place. They did it on the back of RIC FLAIR. I think Liz even got some of that. So, yeah. But maybe Meltzer will get some of that as well. So let's move into happy hour. Let's talk about the newsletter from November 25th and December 2nd.
Poor Dusty. Never going to get over Dusty.
The king of the dirt sheets. Uncle Dave Meltzer will lead us through. We're going to be talking, as I mentioned, the November 25th newsletter and the December 2nd newsletter. And it was no surprise that we were having these newsletters drop on Mondays. A lot of news to go into the shows, and people were receiving these in their mailboxes physically. This wasn't an online platform just yet. You got to subscribe and get a physical packet of the newsletter in the mail. And I didn't know
What's
this
it
existed
like?
when I was 7 years old, but it would have been amazing to know the ins and outs of the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars.
Dude, how crazy is it that we've came so far to where like getting a piece of paper in the mail is like disgusting now. You're like, ew, no, I don't want that. Everything e-bill, like it's ridiculous. Even the newsletter moved to e-bill. Like it was just like, here you go. This is what you paid for. Here's my thoughts. Enjoy.
And it's honestly, it's like the same exact price that it was back in the day. And you could get the physical piece of mail. He'll still send it out to you, personalize it to you. That still happens. And Dave Meltzer's been a little bit active the last few days. He's finally cleaned up that room. He had some of the interns at the Wrestling Observer and F4W clean up his infamous office that was covered in paper. And now he's going live online. I'm not sure if you've seen any of the videos of he's going for Wrestling Observer Radio has a platform video form, no longer just audio where he's coughing in your ear in the microphone.
Man, you gotta utilize that cough button. It's so important.
Meltzer doesn't have any sort of understanding of a cough button. He just coughs right into the microphone.
Sounds
it's part
familiar.
of the charm, I think.
Yeah, but good stuff, man. Listen, it's cool. I think I should start subscribing and get the physical mail. Like it's a delightful thing to wake up to. You get a letter from Dave Meltzer. You're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. What's going on with Larry this week? Because that's what I want to know.
Did he get a little dental procedure? Is that what happened? Or is it just someone trying to save face for everything that went down for the past couple weeks?
To each their own, right?
But if the story I heard was that Kenny Omega V-triggered the dog, and that's the story that Punk is sticking to.
Of course, that'll knock some teeth loose, man. And you never take a V-trigger politely.
Well, it's bring your dog to work day, I guess. But anyway,
Always.
the November 25th newsletter. Let's hop right into the Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig coming over to WCW. So here we go with the Vince McMahon and Curt Hennig conversation that they had. So there must have been major underlying heat between Hennig and McMahon for Hennig to not only jump, but also to burn McMahon and the WWF on 2 consecutive weekends on the way out the door. The story going around is that Hennig had no interest in returning to the ring, as he was a very short time away from a lifetime disability settlement and his Lloyd's of London policy, which would have paid him a reported $300,000 lump sum.
Woo.
So this popped in sort of, it's funny that this came up, the Lloyd's of London policy, where Ric Flair, there was the Best of Bret Hart and the Ric Flair to Be the Man podcast. I'm not sure if you've ever listened to his podcast with Conrad, but he talks about when he had vertigo after wrestling. I forget who he was wrestling, but he had this vertigo that went down, and he, right before he was supposed to get that check, like literally a week before he started to feel better, and he still was going to say he didn't feel well and wanted to get cast a check, go get the disability and be set for, $300,000 is $300,000. But his dad had told him it's bad karma. Don't accept the money. And Conrad made the joke, well, it probably would have went to one of your ex-wives anyway. So, so
fair enough, man. Fair enough.
I think that's exactly what he said. Fair enough. And I guess that is the karma. But Curt Hennig we know the physically, the inability to work in the ring. That was a challenge for him.
Yeah.
The back injury. So WCW was getting damaged goods. So Meltzer continues, however, something happened, which Hennig blamed McMahon for, which led to Lloyd's not going to pay the lump sum, which without the lump sum probably lessened Hennig's reasons for not wanting to return to the ring. Thus, WCW came calling, they'll pay him more money. What, you think it was a good idea for him to go to WCW? Do you think it damaged his legacy? Because if he would have retired after being done with WWF, maybe people will remember him a little more fondly.
I don't know, man. I thoroughly enjoyed Hennig's time in WCW. It eventually led to him coming back to WWE, WWF for a little bit down the road. I'm okay with it. He probably made a little bit more money too. I'm sure WCW hooked him up and gave him that Turner money, baby. But it was always a pleasure to have Hennig on my TV, man. I love the guy to death. He was one of my favorite workers of all time, and I see no non-benefit from having him on TV.
And we'll see what happens for myself. I'm going to be continuing watching 1997 WCW, even though we're not covering it live. I'm going to be still continuing this run if I have some free time outside the ECW obligations, the AW stuff, and the outside the podcast world responsibilities. I'm going to see if I can continue because it's really enjoyable. And, WCW's run right now has been a lot of fun to consume.
Yeah, it only gets better in 97. That's all I got to say. Like, you lose Kevin Sullivan. A lot of the fat's trimmed off. It's great.
So continuing with this Lloyd's of London policy, they no longer in 1996 were selling disability insurance to pro wrestlers after having to pay out to such high percentage of those that purchased policies during the short period they were offered. We got names that cashed in on this. Rick Rude, Ted DiBiase, Road Warrior Animal, Kurt Hennig, and Nikita Koloff, among all others collected on policies. In the case of all but Animal and Hennig, they collected the big lump sum for permanent disability and have never returned to the ring. When he decided he was going to return due to bitterness with McMahon, he decided to contact Bischoff and WCW. Meltzer continues, if it actually happened in this way, then Bischoff and WCW would be less in jeopardy of a tampering charge if Hennig came to them rather than the other way around. I pass that on to you. We don't see any of this, and it's funny, again, like it's serendipitous that we all talk about this, and it just popped in my psyche because of the podcast. We see, I think Road Warrior Animal did return to the ring, obviously. 1998, He came back to WWF. I wonder what the deal is with that. Like, you collect on the insurance, but then come back active. Like, how does that work? I'd have to look up, unless you know.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you have to pay the money back if you're no longer permanently disabled?
I don't know. I mean, possibly there was a workaround where they were permanently disabled, but still got in the ring safely. Different time and age, not the same as like Bret Hart coming in and working with Natty and, David Hart Smith or whatever. So it's interesting. So I don't know, man. It's crazy to see, but I get it. I don't know how they would go about that. Would they have to pay it back? Would they just wipe it off the shelf and forget about it? It's crazy.
Maybe they just cut it to their income if they're getting their money from. Who knows? They work in magical ways. They'll figure out a way to get their money back. That's for sure.
Insurance companies will fuck you over. They're just like the IRS, man. They have no break.
Funny that Ted DiBiase was the one that collected on it too.
Of course.
After all that, the $1 Million Man collecting insurance. That's that kills kayfabe, brother. All right, so there's a funny anecdote about ECW, and I had to include it, especially since we're on the road to ECW 1995. But this is about November to Remember 1996, and Meltzer attended this event live and in person, and he had said, "I left the ECW arena with the same feeling I have at every other show that I've attended from the promotion. It was a good show. The wrestlers worked very hard. A lot of thought was put into the storylines, and the wrestling itself is incredibly overrated in some circles. It's a great independent level wrestling, and that's a compliment because it's an independent level promotion. But a few weeks back, I attended a local indie show at a gym in Hayward, California, and I can't say there was much of a difference overall when it came to work rate between the two shows. The guys take more risks than WWF or WCW guys, and a few of them are better, but the overall level of the work isn't at a major league level." He continues about the blood, about the gore, about Terry Funk. He continues to talk about things that being pretty hard on ECW. And I know that as fans, especially us, we chose ECW 1995 to go through because of the talent we've seen. I've, full transparency, I've never watched ECW 1995 in full. I've seen highlights of the guys there. But it seems like over time, ECW has aged much better than it did in the current day. That reminds me a lot of GCW. I think a lot of people that are hard on GCW may wax poetic about it 10, 15, 25 years from now.
Yeah, 100%.
So continuing at the end of here, just to kind of put a bow on that, he has said, granted, you'll never see as many wild moves in any WWF or perhaps even WCW, All Japan, or New Japan match as Sabu and Rob Van Dam versus the Eliminators. But the top guys in that promotion will never miss as many spots as they did as well. And they'll control the crowd a lot better. So throwing huge shade at Sabu and RVD. That match in November to Remember 1996, I do remember that one being very, very good. The Eliminators, a very underrated tag team.
Yeah.
Now I'm just curious, is he just going to shit all over ECW the whole time we do this? That may create a whole different dynamic for us because he's been pretty positive towards WCW. Aside from some of the personalities like Hogan, he's been pretty fair on the shows. We'll see if he starts ripping apart ECW. It may change the whole scope of our happy hour segment. Yeah,
no, I mean, listen, he's throwing shade at RVD and Sabu, right, and the Eliminators. Who do we talk about most from ECW? Look at that beautiful, beautiful 1980s porn star hair he's rocking. Looks like a gent. But, I mean, we talk about Sabu and RVD way more than we do a lot of WWF guys, a lot of WCW guys, because they were innovative. They had style. They had presence when they got out there. Sabu is like one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers. I know he missed a lot of his shit, but like I was never not fucking glued to the TV when Sabu was on. And I really mean that. Like I was still to this day, nobody works like Sabu. Nobody. And I think Dave's just shitting on it because it's new, and he might be not super keen to it yet. But I bet you it grows on him. It might not be 95, but I bet you like 97, 98. He's going to be clamoring about ECW, how great it is.
Yeah, and nobody could have had a knowledge of what the effect would be in being chanted in the arena. Still to this day, when a table gets broken out or weapons are used, they still chant ECW. So the impact can't be disputed. But in real time, it probably was one of those niche things that people enjoyed, but others that didn't enjoy it were vocal critics.
Loyalists. Those goddamn loyalists. They hate it. They're like, oh, what do you mean you're not doing a drop toe? Oh, get that fucking chair out of the ring.
So I just thought I wanted to add that too there because it was in the newsletter. Wanted to talk about it because it was something that was absolutely relevant, and I'm excited to cover ECW. It won't be ECW 1996, but 1995 certainly has a lot of information to unpack from Dave Meltzer himself. So we're going to get into Roddy Piper's deal that talks about, now we're getting more details about the deal he signed with WCW, and appears to be working 4 to 5 wrestling matches per year and make about 15 interview appearances throughout the year. The prime focus of the contract is that Turner will be developing a syndicated television show built around Piper as a bounty hunter or policeman type role. The contract was apparently for huge money. Didn't have the exact figure.
Yeah.
But this is sort of progressive and game-changing, where you have a guy coming off a full-time schedule at one point where he was working 300 days a year on the road, house shows. He's only expected to work 4 to 5 wrestling matches a year. Sounds very similar to AEW. I mean, AEW, they're going to be working a little bit more than that amount, but not that many more matches. I heard a stat just for perspective of a guy who's pretty much full-time with, that short little stint off between May and September. MJF has only worked 53 matches in his career in AEW. 53.
That's crazy.
Crazy. He's been around there. He's been there since the beginning.
You want to go with Punk for the last year? He's worked 21 matches. And maybe his entire AEW career, we'll see what the future holds. But, that's insane. I mean, for somebody who is there from the very beginning, 53 matches is nothing.
Yeah, and a huge piece of this whole WCW thing didn't really work out in their favor was the television deals. Yeah. And AEW, sort of with Warner Brothers Discovery, we saw a lot of the news drop in there that they want reality-based programming to be shoulder content. We use the word shoulder content to have these shows that go along with the live performance of the shows, similar to Road to the Top, similar to Total Bellas, Total Divas, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It just seems like WCW had their stake in the game very quickly, and they knew what they wanted. I don't think they ever really got the big picture, but this was certainly way ahead of its time, understanding where the market was going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We never really got to see Roddy Piper in the Texas Walker Ranger era of being, the bounty hunter guy, which would have been great though. Imagine like a They Live Piper.
Yep.
Doing like a Texas Walker Ranger. I think nowadays people would be fucking glued to that because they'd be like, look at this crazy bastard wrestler from Scotland wearing the kilt, going after people, beating the fuck out of them. I'm here for it, man. Bring it back.
It's just interesting to see too. At the time, obviously Hogan was breaking into Hollywood, or trying to, with the really shitty movies he was doing, most notably Santa with Muscles and the Three Ninjas movie.
Santa with Muscles was a masterpiece.
It was classic. It was highly reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like 100%, I think. Don't go and check. Don't fact check me here. But
no fact checking at all.
But it's just funny now that we see, obviously, The Rock is the gold standard of wrestler turned actor. Again, like, they had their finger on the pulse of where this wrestling thing would go to normalize getting these guys mixed in. Yeah. I still remember when The Rock first did that movie, it seemed laughable that he'd be doing, real acting. And it's funny how it becomes so normalized, and you can credit WWE for it, but you also credit the guys. A guy like Piper, who took roles on movies and did what he did.
Listen, Hogan had the walk so The Rock could run, and The Rock ran fucking marathons, and he's still doing it to this day. I mean, if you would have looked at the Tooth Fairy and been like, this guy's going to be a blockbuster movie star, and even with the reviews of the Black Adam that's coming out, they're like, it was shit, but like it's like, come on, The Rock is a bona fide movie star. Everybody loves him. People want him to run for president. It's very akin to 97 Hulk Hogan, where they're like, Hogan for president, shit like that. but they didn't watch Santa
The
with
Rock may
muscles.
win. I mean, like,
The Rock would probably win, and that's the crazy thing.
who would have thought, as this like 10-year-old sitting watching WrestleMania 15, that The Rock, walking in as WWF champion, could be president? How many years later? 25 years later. It's a pretty wild reality.
Yeah, insanity.
We're in a simulation, obviously. In Matt Groening's The Simpsons, obviously, this is a reality that only The Simpsons could have written. But anyway, let's move to the December 2nd newsletter. And this is a pretty big thing that I found here. And I never had the context of it because of the Rumble that comes up that year in 97. We know that there is AAA talent that appear in that Rumble, and it just seems misplaced and didn't have any direction. But this was a big deal with WWF publicly announcing at a press conference on its weekend television some sort of promotional tie-in with AAA, and had Pierrot Jr., the company's top heel, shown on its television, and had Bret Hart making derogatory comments about him and the Mexican wrestlers. They were doing it in San Antonio, making sense from a knee-jerk reaction since San Antonio has a huge Mexican population that has a history in previous generations of supporting Mexican wrestlers, since Lothario was the city's top draw in the early 70s. However, when AAA was a strong and drawing almost everywhere, it couldn't sell any tickets in San Antonio. Meltzer gives us the numbers and all that. But initially, 1997, we saw all these Mexican wrestlers get thrown in. It seems random when you do like a Rumble rewatch when you're not watching it in context of 97. It just seems the most random Rumble of all time with guys you have no idea who they are. Do you remember this going down? I'll give you the context of the trial relationship they developed. But do you remember this happening? And did you have any sort of knee-jerk reaction to it being a direct response to WCW having a cruiserweight division?
I remember it happening. I didn't feel anything like, oh man, they're going after that cruiserweight division. You know, like shame on them. But it was cool to see different people in the ring mixing it up with people. You know, it's always a good thing to see new talent kind of getting that shine. And it doesn't really happen as much anymore. But it was a big deal. But it's nothing like
a press conference for sure.
Yeah, but nothing like I'm sitting here to this day dying on that hill about like, oh man, 1996 WWF Rumble with fucking, you know, a AAA there is the best. It was great. Well, 97 at that time, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So Meltzer talks about the deal, and he said, I'm told the AAA deal is a trial relationship with no definitive plans other than just to take things how they come. On the AAA television show over the weekend, they announced Pierrot Jr. and Latin Lover as being part of the Rumble, and also showed a video of Shawn Michaels as if he were coming to AAA. It may wind up that AAA will run a joint show in Mexico with WWF, as WWF has always had thoughts of running a show in Mexico City, which is almost among the largest cities population-wise in the world. The news of the deal wasn't lost on Bischoff, who immediately attempted to get all the former AAA wrestlers that were appearing in WCW for the World War III weekend to sign official WCW contracts. So again, pettiness in the Monday Night War. Seems like one shoe falls on the other, and they want to be walking in the same footsteps. But I think at the end of the day, WCW presented these guys in a better light, bar none.
Definitely more down to the concrete. These guys, they were the same guys that were coming over from AAA. It wasn't like you're rebranding Penta to like, oh, here's El Salvador from, you know, AAA wrestling promotion, and you know he's wearing a fucking smiley face mask. They didn't botch it, you know.
Yeah, they presented the way that they made these guys feel like a big deal, and a lot has to do with the way they presented on commentary. We see that every time a guy's brought in, even if it's a one-off with Dean Malenko or wrestling Rey Mysterio, we hear the background. Yeah, and I think that's huge. I don't know if WWF really presented them in context because they're stuck in their own world, and the people that were booking their shows, notably guys that just have a North American, Northeastern centric type of wrestling promotion mindset, they couldn't put their mind on understanding, making people care about them by just presenting them in a positive light on the same level as your talent. Showing that they ever got that chance. They're presented as geeks in the Rumble.
Yeah. No, I mean, even way down the line when Taka Michinoku comes into WWF, I mean, he's the only Japanese wrestler in WWF's eyes. Like, there's nothing else out there. And that really, it puts out the fire for outside of WWF promotions.
And like, how long, this guy, how long is he presented as a guy that's meaningful? He wins the light heavyweight championship.
Nothing.
And then feuds. And all of a sudden he's in Kind Tide a year later, not even doing the choppy your pee-pee with with Val Venus, like in the
Yeah.
backstage. Like, what's the gap of time? 1998 WrestleMania till that happened. What, summer of that year, the fall? So like 6 months between he became a comedy character.
Yeah, and it's in retrospect very embarrassing. You know, it's just you gotta treat your guys with fucking respect and don't make a gimmick out of them. Don't make
Taka's still
don't make
killing it today. Taka's still
great,
wrestling,
man.
killing
Yeah.
it. So anyway, I thought that was interesting
No.
as well. It just shows you that every promotion's watching, and we talk about WWE and AEW to this day where they're watching each other. And I know Triple H is more open about it than Vince was, but they're definitely learning from each other, and they're taking example of this. Obviously, the Thunderdome, when there was no fans, they were wrestling in silence for a while, and then what AEW probably got the idea from SNL when they put the talent or the staff in the crowd. But then AEW did it for a wrestling show first. You can't dispute that. They did it first.
Yeah.
WWE did it and then pretended they weren't second. It just, why not use good ideas is my point.
And well, listen, I didn't even know until you just spoke it that SNL did it. Like, you know, like that's cool. But I think Tony Khan absolutely capitalized on having a large roster at the time and everybody being semi-safe, sitting around the ring, enjoying the show. It really made for better television, especially when they did that long taping where it was like 4 weeks of television in 2 days. And this is why the best, like, this is why Orange Cassidy and Chuck and Trent are all big names now, is because they really proved themselves during this time. It's just, it's crazy to, like, why wouldn't you do that? Why? It only makes sense. Imagine doing a tavern podcast where it's just me and you, but like, we have all this open room here. Like, let's get everybody else out there. Let's get Sneed and Chad out in the crowd, the heckle and cheer and fucking chant. It'd be great, you know? Wild.
So we continue with Meltzer's review of World War III, and I won't read the full review, but he had said a good promotion learns from both those that do work and those that don't, unless that promotion has a bottomless pit of money like WCW and doesn't need to learn. Starting to sour a little bit here, and he said this best sums up World War III on 11/24 from the Norfolk Scope Arena. WCW's now annual 60-man 3-ring battle royal. The company tried it last year. What resulted was a major problem, and putting 3 different pictures on a screen resulted in boredom personified to the television viewer at home. He continues to talk about, and he uses this saying, impossible to watch action. Then when they got into the final ring with 10 men left, it was one of those Titanic, everyone jumps overboard as fast as possible battle royals in the late 70s and 80s killed the battle royal gimmick, which in many cities during the 70s was the single biggest drawing match of the year. So we talked about it. I enjoyed it. I don't think it has the same significance as a Royal Rumble, and that's just because I grew up watching WWF. And also World War III disappears. It doesn't last as long as Rumble. I think it had 5, right? 5.
I think so. Yeah.
So I thought it was a cool concept, though. And I don't think it's worth hating on to the level that he is. It doesn't say, like, they didn't have any mistakes to learn from. There were still some killer matches on that card.
Yeah, and listen, I totally understand his perspective on it, because it is hard watching picture-in-picture any day. I mean, we watch AEW, there's more picture-in-picture going on than there has been in our entire lifetime.
Right.
But it is hard to keep up with, and it's hard to want to care while there's 3 screens on the screen, and it's hard to see who's getting eliminated. They're usually allocating only like 2 cameras to each picture-in-picture spot, so really hard to keep up with. But it was a really cool concept. I thought it was fun. Not so much a Super Bowl, but like a Rose Bowl. You know what I mean? Like it was interesting to watch. I always had love for World War III. I always thought it was a good time, fun fucking watch, no matter what. Because you're like, there's 60 guys in the ring at once beating the piss out of each other. Like, you never know what's going to happen, be it fluke or not. So it was always still very entertaining, very interesting to watch, but absolutely was hard to keep track of.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, give them credit for taking a risk and not just doing the same old thing and copying the Rumble. They tried to one-up it. And like we said, learning from each other and bettering it. Yeah. Not everything hits on the mark, but this hit for some people, and you remember it very fondly. And I think that's important to recognize.
I do. So, I loved it.
As usual, WCW won the Monday battle, and this is according to Meltzer, for something like the 23rd week in a row, although numbers were down on both sides. We had, you know, Raw's numbers continue to be disappointed since the show features Brett's first television match against his brother, plus a live interview with Shawn Michaels. 83 weeks in a row, we know that Nitro beats them. I think they're in the stretch here. 23rd week in a row. Nitro's on fire.
Yeah.
and they're just going up. And I think Raw is sort of recalibrating to figure out what's going on, and they're throwing things at a wall. Had Owen versus Brett this week on Raw, the matching Raw that went with our Nitro, still didn't outdraw what they were doing in WCW.
Yeah. Crazy that they're pulling today's numbers then. And you still have a whole million over from today's numbers on WCW.
It's crazy. And those are down numbers. Like Meltzer talks about some of the numbers that are 1.5 million people watching wrestling that night was a disappointing number. And today the people would be ecstatic. We had 977,000 people watch AEW last night or on Wednesday
3.5 million, as they like to claim.
Yeah. But with the NBA and the Housewives, there's all the excuses of these different competition, and people take that in consideration, but that is a huge metric that we have to consider. And at the time, there wasn't as much competition for wrestling, but still, it's still impressive that they were doing the numbers they were.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Bischoff's gimmick of his heel gimmick persona with NWO is based on the character Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street. Any familiarity with that character? And is that true? I've never seen the movie Wall Street.
I'll say it's loosely based off of Gordon Gekko. I've seen the movie Wall Street. It's I get it. I get the comparison, but I don't think it's 100% there. That'd be like saying Tony Khan is based off of the Wolf of Wall Street character.
Okay, I can see.
You know what I mean? Like you see it.
There.
I ain't fucking going nowhere. You know, like it's got the mix of it, but it's still pretty good. I'll fuck with it. We'll let it slide, Meltzer.
The word we got was that the NWO hour on Nitro would start on December 2nd. However, on the 25th of November, there was no mention of it happening. The last word was that Bischoff and DiBiase would announce the first hour, and that Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, our good friend Mike Tenay would do the second hour, and that Larry Zbyszko would end up doing some sort of television angle with Scott Hall being active.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're waiting for that Nitro hour. We're waiting for them to take over, whether it be Saturday night or a full hour of Nitro. We do just get the pay-per-view, right? Like, that's the only thing we really get with this. Or do they actually take over Nitro?
No, they do sold out. I think they took over a few Nitros. The Zbyszko thing was the truest thing out of the statement, because I know Zbyszko worked a very nice angle with Scott Hall. Is probably one of my favorite things I've seen on the WCW side of things. Just because Zbyszko is this fucking mark, you know, he's like he gets that really in-depth snot ball fucking, you know, pro WCW guy, and Scott Hall goes against them like they were the perfect program to put together. And I thought it was fun, but yeah, I remember a few NWO Nitros, probably not many, if I do recall right, but I know it was sold out. Was the first NWO pay-per-view, and I think that's 97 sold out. So I mean, it was great. I loved the concept of it. They did try to make it look different. They put the canvas in the ring. They had NWO ring skirts. They had the whole presentation, but it was goofy. I don't think it aged well production-wise.
What do you think the holdup was that they didn't just pull the trigger immediately? They were very trigger happy for everything else New World Order, whether it be adding members, merchandise. Some reason they have cold feet about doing this television show. I guess they were hesitant, but why?
I don't know. I feel like they didn't want to pull the trigger too soon, and I don't think they wanted to kill the legacy WCW still had. You know, and I think there was still a good portion of fans that wanted to see WCW versus NWO, and they didn't want it to just be NWO from here on out. So I think the Bischoff probably seen that. If there's more money in a war than there is a takeover, you know, like if you got guys coming in, and I mean, it stands in politics to this day. There's way more money in wars than there are just like hostile takeovers. So I think Bischoff is going on that mindset. Hopefully, I don't know. It's crazy.
From the outside looking in, I think what ruined the NWO is them trying to make it the same level promotion as WCW. I think they were so much better when they were just 4 guys.
Yeah, no, and then, like, again, there's perks of it growing, and there's perks of it staying small. But like you can never, you can't guarantee anything, you know. So it's just like it was a lot of trial and error. Most of it became error in the long run, and I think that's what really hurt the overall feel for it, especially when they started branching, you know, the Wolfpack, NWO, Black and White, LWO. Like, it got so stupid at some point that they had to just kill it.
Yeah. They had to put it out to pasture, and I think the best version was the original version because of how shocking it was. And there's a a delicate balance that I think if Bischoff went back in time, that he wouldn't have just gone all out. And we've commented on week after week, we see how quickly it grows, where you went from 3 members to 4, then all of a sudden we're at 8. And so how the hell did we get there?
8 and growing,
Yeah.
It's like Hulk Hogan took the biggest blue chew ever, and it never stopped fucking going down.
So finishing off the newsletter here, we have the Giant making a cameo in the Schwarzenegger movie Jingle All the Way, which apparently is on the verge of being a flop by Arnold proportions, which is so funny that ages so well as a cult classic for Christmas season. I'm a big fan. Put the cookie down. Amazing Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how it did box office wise, but sick movie.
I remember going to see it with my dad. It was a great movie, and we all wanted Rocket Man after that. It was ridiculous. But I think it was probably one of Sinbad's best movies.
Sinbad,
Phil Hartman in it, right? Or am I thinking of Toy Soldiers? I could be wrong.
So yeah,
I think Phil Hartman was in it, but not. Come on, we got to go and get the Jingle All the Way. It was good.
He the dad? Is he the father in the movie? Is that?
I think he might be. I could be wrong. Hold on. Now I have to fact check it.
All right. Well, while you do that, we'll talk about Turbo Man another time as we get towards Christmas.
Turbo Man. Why did I say Rocket Man? God damn it.
Well, popped in my brain. I put the cookie down, Belcaster. All right. So let's get here with the latest on the Shotgun Saturday Night Show, and it's scheduled for January 4th start date. While this hasn't been officially confirmed, Meltzer's belief is that they have a TV deal done and they are keeping it quiet for fear WCW will try to buy it out, because you don't book buildings a few weeks out in hopes you can have a last-minute put-together TV deal. So the idea of Shotgun Saturday Night, you and I talked about it, about how innovative it was supposed to be, not some one-off hour where they were just putting jobbers on there. It was supposed to be airing live at midnight on Saturday nights, and when we put up on satellites, it will air live on a syndicated network. They are attempting to put together both Eastern and Central time on a 3-hour tape delay on the West Coast, with Vince and Todd Pettengill most likely as announcers. McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, Paul Heyman went out to scout various nightclubs in New York City to revolve tapings, although Heyman is not an official consultant for the show, but it wouldn't shock me to see him have some kind of involvement in it. So we're going to get into his criticism of it. It's so funny. Heyman, who still to this day say he wasn't on the payroll of WWF at any given time. He's working with them right here. He's trying to scout clubs for Shotgun Saturday Night. You don't think there's any sort of financial roll back in his favor? You could just use my talent, we'll get exposure. Come on.
Yeah. No, and listen, Shotgun Saturday Night was one of the best things that ever happened in the Attitude Era. I'll stand to this day. I will die on this hill. I loved Shotgun Saturday Night. The grimmy, grungy indie feel of it was fucking awesome, and it stood so well on TV. I thought it was awesome, especially with that time slot, that 11 p.m. midnight, a syndication. Come on. You can't go wrong with shit like that. Like Triple H and Undertaker fighting in a goddamn subway. How does it get better than that?
So what was the hurdle to staying with the production is they eventually started doing in arenas on back of Raw and whatever. They would have it be taped earlier in advance. That's how I remember Shotgun.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the original episodes later in time, but Shotgun was one of those things, it just presented itself. I could see the logo. It would just be in the arena, just darkened on tape delay. It wasn't live. Yeah. So I guess getting these buildings was harder over time to get these small clubs.
I guess so. Allocating talent to each Shotgun Saturday Night Live, making it important and meaningful. Not every Shotgun Saturday Night was Triple H and Undertaker wrestling in a subway. It was Grimm's Balls Mahoney-ish, beating the shit out of each other in a bar, which was still good. Imagine how that would have thrived throughout the actual Attitude. Imagine APA doing tag team matches in Shotgun Saturday. It would be phenomenal, them beating the piss out of people in the bars. I think there was a lot of good layover. It had to have been a scheduling thing, saving money. Let's do it like they did Sunday Night Heat, Velocity, anything, AEW Dark. They just pre-tape it. That'll be the early show instead of us doing actual dark matches, we'll record something instead. I think that was the appeal to it. Kind of just shot the whole thing in the foot, but I love the aesthetic of it. I love the original concept. I wish somebody would go back and do that.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a market for it that could be interesting. And You mentioned money. Meltzer is critical of this and has said about McMahon. What's interesting about this is that McMahon had heavily criticized WCW for the expense of going live every single week with Nitro because of the 6-figure cost each week of doing such a show. And now he's doing it himself with similar costs of going live, but doing a syndicated show that has the added expense of perhaps having to buy time, having to put together a syndicated network that will almost surely not reach as many homes as TNT, and being in a time slot where it's going to be basically impossible to draw the kind of ratings WCW does with the live shows, so they can't make nearly as much selling ads with its live shows, so they can't make the same amount of money on midnight on a Saturday. It will mean that WWF has to water down its Saturday night live shows, since some of the stars will have to be pulled from the tour each week, and Saturday night is theoretically the most profitable night for house shows. Keep in mind, too, the house show circuit is still going strong, where you're running shows almost 4 days a week, right? 5 days a week, where main stars, you have to bring Taker, Stone Cold, Bret Hart. They need to be making towns, and wherever you are, even though it's not on TV, it still has to be there for your audience, because the gates are still very, very much important in these live shows. We see in WCW, it's still important.
Yeah.
There's some trouble. I mean, we talked about the trouble they ran into. The idea is a beautiful thing. I would love to just cover Shotgun Saturday Night for the amount of time it lasted, where it was just strictly that syndicated show live for an hour from whatever club in New York City or Boston or Providence, Rhode Island, wherever they happen to be that night.
No, I specifically fondly remember being off of school, not having shit to do on Sunday, and tuning in the Shotgun Saturday Night because it was fun. It was interesting, and the aesthetic it was like watching people get in the bar fights every week. Like, who doesn't enjoy Roadhouse live in person every Saturday?
It's a good point. We'll definitely hear more about that as we go on, but we have to get our fix now. We just finished our happy hour, 40 minutes of taking some sips of drinks, and hopefully you guys have a nice buzz going for the 2 episodes of Nitro we have for you, because it certainly be a banger. So let's get our fix. All right, time to get our fix. We're going to be covering the first Nitro, WCW Monday Nitro, November 25th, 1996, from Salisbury, Maryland, from the Wicomico Civic Center. So I'm going to put up the banner.
Still standing to this day. The Wicomico. I have no idea.
Okay, I was going to say.
What a name, though.
I undoubtedly said it wrong. There's no way it's the Wicomico. I mean, that's how it says. Wicomico Civic Center. You guys can see the as it scrolls past us, but our current champs are as followed. Hogan is still our WCW World Champ. Our fearless leader won that title back at Hog Wild from the Giant. U.S. Championship is finally vacated. They have a tournament that's starting. We're going to go over some of those matches. It was vacated on this episode of Nitro. Ric Flair down with a torn labrum. He saw Dr. James Andrews. He has the injury and the surgery happening. So we are fully ready for Ric Flair to come back at action, but we will definitely not see him for the rest of 1996. Our tag champions are still the Outsiders. They won it back at Halloween Havoc. Our television champion is Steven Regal. He won it back on August 20th. We're finally seeing him actively involved in TV. Ironically, we're going to be seeing him involved in the U.S. Championship tournament, not defending his TV title. It's very similar to AEW. And our Cruiserweight champion is the best wrestler on the planet, Dean Malenko. Won it back at Halloween Havoc.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The man of a million holds. They only said 1,000 because they didn't want to intimidate people.
No, absolutely.
All right, so hour number 1, our host, Tony Schiavone, Larry Zbyszko, and we get still shown from the night before World War III, as we covered last week in depth. If you missed it, go back in the archives, check it out. We covered it pretty extensively. We talked about that 60-man battle royal. Mike glowed about it. I was a fan of it. I thought it was a great event. And now we get other things about the Giant stealing the U.S. title belt, and Flair has been stripped of the championship due to the status of not wrestling for 30 days. They announced a tournament to crown a new U.S. champion will begin tonight, and we'll get the finale at STARRCADE at the end. So we'll have a U.S. champion by the time we go off the air for the final time for WCW 1996. Thoughts on them doing a tournament? And again, to compare it to AEW, very similar.
Yeah, no interim U.S. title, which is crazy.
Right.
I'm shocked, I very am. But no, listen, they have to do the title good somehow, and not that it's been doing great over the last year, but put some pepper on that steak, season that bad boy, make it mean something, make it flavorful. I'm here for the overall outcome of the tournament, and seeing how they handle it.
So we get our opening match, Lex Luger versus Arn Anderson, which is a first round WCW US title tournament match. So at this point, we can understand that Arn is essentially on a retirement tour. So at this point, we haven't seen him have a meaningful program, a good match in quite some time. Kind of a shame because at the beginning of this, he got 2 wins over Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
They weren't clean wins, but the Horseman helped him get the win. It was a big moment. We covered that in depth. But yeah, we're definitely seeing the tail end of Arn's career. He's definitely struggling in the ring. His better years are definitely behind him. This match ends the way you think it's going to end. A torture rack ends the match. Lex Luger advances 13 minutes and 7 seconds. But we get a double count out instead of Lex Luger winning the match. So
yeah,
what are your thoughts on that? I guess this being a double count out, us having to take a shot of nostalgia, and your thoughts on the match overall. Why would you eliminate both these guys from the jump?
I don't know. It's weird. Lex was obviously the given. I figured Lex was going to be the guy that fucking pedal to the metal, strapped the U.S. title on him. It's fucking Mr. USA, Lex Express himself. Give him the U.S. title, put him on that star run that WWF clearly failed to do. But
confetti and balloons after a count-out victory with no title win.
Yeah, it's weird. The best thing out of this match was Arn Anderson's porn music coming down the ring. It's like it's just it really stamps the time slot on everything. But yeah, it was okay. It wasn't anything great. Double countout is a weird way to kick off a Nitro.
Very and a tournament too, just to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, a very WCW of WCW to do. Like usually their first match is hot and the rest of the show stinks. Nope, we started off with the fucking big turd in the bowl, man.
And this went head to head with Bret versus Owen on Raw. As we mentioned, they went head to head. This is the first time that they wrestled in a while. Raw started off hot. Maybe they thought they couldn't compete with it, so they wanted to save the other stuff no matter what they put against Bret and Owen. Maybe they thought they were going to lose that time slot, so they just kind of punted and put a match that they knew they had to get done storyline wise.
Yeah, weird mindset, weird thought process, weird finish, weird everything.
All right, so let's take the shot of nostalgia. You know, Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, both eliminated. What could have been in the U.S. Championship tournament?
Yeah.
All right, so we get some stills of Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon, Jericho versus Nick Patrick, and Giant Jarrett from World War III. Best of those 3 matches was definitely Mysterio Dragon. Might be the match of the year. Jericho Nick Patrick wasn't so bad either. So again, if you missed this covering World War III, very surprised to see how good Jericho Nick Patrick was.
I'll stand beside it all day long. It was fun, entertaining, good shit.
So without further ado, we get the probably what they wanted to open up Nitro with if they weren't going head to head with Bret Owen. New World Order comes out without Hogan. They're led by Eric Bischoff, and Bischoff explains that this is why he turned to the NWO. The morning after taking a jackknife powerbomb off a stage through a table, he asked himself whether or not he wanted to be consumed by power or did he want to be part of the force. Now we know it's the latter. Not only is the highest executive in the NWO, but he's the highest executive in WCW. The guys in the back have 30 days to convert their WCW contracts to NWO contracts or they will be targeted. And he goes after Piper. And he had said, if you decide to get out of hand, I will fine you. As for the U.S. title, possession is 9/10 of the law. And that means he's going to take the belt away. He says that someone in the NWO is going to win the U.S. title. I'm not sure who exactly. Maybe it's going to be Six. Maybe it's going to be the Giant again. I guess because Giant, I guess they're just talking about how Giant was holding the belt physically before they stripped Flair of it.
Yeah.
After this, we get the American males coming up to interrupt them. Riggs is trying to change Bagwell's mind about joining the NWO. So we have here the heat between Bagwell and Riggs for the last couple weeks. And Bagwell embraces the NWO boys anyway. When Bagwell goes over to tell Riggs it's just business, he drops him with a reverse neck breaker. New World Order chants break out. That's the first time we're hearing these chants in succession with what's going on in the ring.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the loudest they got all night. So Marcus Bagwell is the newest member of the NWO. And we talk about jumping the shark with members. This is certainly a member you could have done without.
Yeah, the birth of Buff Too Tough, the man who's got all the stuff. Buff Bagwell. Yeah, like you said, imagine if I beat the shit out of you and spray painted Turnbuckle Tavern on your back. I don't think it would go over well with our fan base here.
Well, many people target this moment, opening the door to guys that are not meaningful characters on the show, and the defections, as they're called here, is where the NWO storyline went south. I think it was before this when they had guys joining way prior, open the door to too many people, but giving the defections 30 days. And this is a huge mistake by Bischoff, because guys that have no business being involved in a main event feud, long-time mid-carders, jobbers by any means, just put on a NWO shirt and they're part of the gang. It watered down the product. And I think that's a huge mistake that they made. And this was the start of it.
Yeah, I won't call it officially dead in the water until Booty Man officially comes back. But yes, you're 100% on the button, man.
All right, so we have DDP versus Disco Inferno. This is a short match. I'll let you cover it here. You know the ending. We know the ending. You see it's rolling by. Tell us.
Bro, listen, man. Disco comes out. He starts kicking and swatting. He hits that swinging net breaker. But DDP always, as always, bro, hits that diamond cutter bang. And the most entertaining part of this match was obviously the shenanigans. DDP wins 2 minutes, 14 seconds. But Mean Gene comes out there. He's like, DDP, what are you doing? What is it? The NWO wants you. And he just keeps avoiding it. Yeah, bro, he's my old tag partner. I was his old manager. Yeah, Bischoff is my neighbor across the street. I don't take out his garbage, though. It was weird. But you could see Page is kind of doing his own thing. I thought this was a actually really good promo for Page. I thought it was fun, misleading to the NWO stuff, but never following through with it. It really made, when Page stood up for WCW and DDP himself, it made that moment really spectacular. So I think this was really cool to see the birthing of that and him going against the grain. And I think this is the first time we're seeing the DDP character in 96 that he does actually become, because we see little trickles of it and everything, but man, DDP coming out and telling Mean Gene to stick it where the sun don't shine, brother. It's the best.
So you nailed it. I mean, we talk about it week after week. DDP is coming into his own, and we're seeing him evolve over time to become a more meaningful character, a more main event level character. And this is another example of it. A quick win. He's definitely getting pushed here. The best decision they ever made for DDP is not joining the New World Order. It could have stunted his growth. The fact that he wasn't there was the perfect adversary. Him and Sting were the reason that WCW had a chance in the war. I mean, they're the two lifelines they had because they didn't join.
Yeah, especially with Flair being hurt, and you had a lot of shit going on the line, but DDP was just beating around the bush of it, but he was very in tune with, like, no, bro, this is me, I'm DDP, and like it stuck, and it really, really filled out there in this promo. You really got like a glimpse of how Page turns out to be the guy in the long run.
Agree with you, and I'm excited to see what goes on in 1997. I know the stories. I know he's a main player, and he's going to have his huge moment in the sun 97, but we're seeing the start of it, and I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we have the World Television Championship on the line. Lord Steven Regal, who's been in the news lately, versus Tony Pena. Not the baseball player, but he is he's a jobber. He is apparently just a Mexican wrestler from AAA, not wearing his mask. We've definitely never seen him before, based on my recollection and my research. I mean, if you check out his trunks, he had a Roman numeral 4 on it, so maybe something to do with his character. If you guys know who it is, please go out and check it. He tries to rough up Regal. That obviously just pisses Regal off. Regal hits him with some stiff forearms in the corner. And then Pena hits a DDT for a 2, then a butterfly suplex, gets a near fall for Regal. And of course, the Regal stretch ends it. Almost pulled the guy's arm out of his socket. 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Surprisingly competitive, especially since this is a no-name jobber from AAA. Yeah. Man, but that Regal stretch is a devastating finisher. And this is probably third or fourth time we've seen him just end the match with it. He's had other ways of winning the match. This felt like the first time we're seeing it, or maybe the second time, as a legitimate finisher, and he keeps it for a long time.
Yeah, no, and just a little deep dive on Tony Pena. I do remember the Roman numerals playing a part in some kind of luchador stable down the long run. I might be wrong on this. Okay. Might not have anything to do with Tony, but I do remember some masked men's with the Roman numerals being a part of the tag scene, maybe 97, early 98. So
Okay.
maybe it could be the same guy. Could have just been like a birthplace for this thing, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. But the memory's there.
All right, there it is.
Yeah.
But obviously, Tony Pena is not the story here. It's Steven Regal. But we'll give you guys more information as we know. Maybe next week we'll have more information on Tony Pena if he comes back.
Yeah.
But again, we just to go back in the news that we were talking about on the wrap-up show last night with Tony Khan taking aim at Eric Bischoff and had said that he's contradictory, he's inflammatory, he used other words, just disrespectful to his AEW product, and he's hypocritical mostly because Eric Bischoff's clamoring for story and said Tony Khan is his live programming is disjointed. It doesn't make any sense. Eric Bischoff is booking this stuff, and it's eerily similar to what Tony Khan was. And what is the story between Steven Regal and Tony Pena? What's the story between DDP and Disco Inferno? Like, these matches are cut from the same cloth as these AEW. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but for Eric Bischoff to have revisionist history to go out there and say, I was doing it differently. Like, no, you weren't. You just weren't. It's simply not a fact. People can go back into the archives and watch as we are right now. It's very, very similar. So Tony Khan is like, what out of all people? It's like Jim Cornette being critical. Obviously, Smoky Mountain Wrestling was a different product than WCW Nitro or AEW Dynamite. At least there's like consistency with Jim Cornette where he can go back and look at the way he presents his product is much different. Eric Bischoff, dude, they're like the two peas in a pod. They present the exact same program, Nitro and Dynamite, I mean, the Dynamite's the birth child from Nitro.
It really is.
Made with love.
Just a little confirmation. I was right. He was Volano 6 is what he was. He was in a stable with all the Mexican luchadors. He did a match with La Parca and Psychosis as his teammates.
Okay.
In '97. So it's still there. I'm just making sure I'm not senile yet. But
is he related in any way to the guy in AAA right now? The guy who wrestled Penta at Triple Mania?
Ooh, that is a good question, but no. Okay. Not that I see. Wait. Yeah, no, it's the same guy.
Really?
Yes, this is match worth watching is the top of the list. I'm on Cage Match right now. Was Pentagon Jr. versus Volano 6.
Wait, so Tony Pena is the same guy?
Tony Pena is the same guy that wrestled Penta on October 15th, 2022.
And that crazy mask versus mask match.
Yeah, and he wrestled Psycho Clown fucking in July. In June. Yeah, absolutely insane.
You guys just learned it here first, just as we're learning it. That is insane. That's insanity.
Yeah, so you're looking, talk about coming full circle here.
Wow.
Tony Pena just wrestled Pentagon in probably one of the best AAA matches ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Insane, man. Absolutely insane.
Wow, and he still looks pretty good. I mean, I know a mask does cover a lot of the age, but he still looks pretty damn good in the ring. He had a killer match with Penta. Yeah,
he almost killed Penta. Like, there's lots of moments in that match where we're like, damn, it was a barn burner. So good.
Let's just
Tony.
end like George Costanza. Let's end the show now. We're not
we're out.
That.
That's it, man. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you guys. 1996 is over. All right,
Eric Bischoff's in our ear. No.
Eric Bischoff's in our ear. We gotta go that time. All right.
Wow.
Gene Okerlund interviewed Rick Steiner. He says the Steiner brothers are 110% behind WCW. And after Rick Steiner's trip to Japan, he sees Sting hanging up in the rafters and dropping people from behind. What's that about? And then Rick Steiner, he's trying to figure out the lay of the land. They're acknowledging that he hasn't been on TV for some time. So we may see some crossover with that. But Steiner's going to get a little bit of a push here in the last couple of weeks of 1996.
Woo. Here for it.
All right, so we get our other first round WCW US title tournament match, Conan versus Eddie Guerrero. Take the lead on this one. Two very legendary wrestlers going at it.
Yeah, surprisingly, you would expect more out of this match. It wasn't the best match these two could have done, but it was not a bad match and probably one of the best matches of the night. A lot of good back and forth. Obviously, Conan's fantastic in this day and age. I think we're at prime Conan. I don't think he gets better than he does in 96, 97 era. And
he's rocking the street gear. He's wearing the jeans. Yeah. He's wearing the tank tops. I love it.
I mean, as good as he was when he was colorful, Mexico City champion or whatever the fuck they were calling him back in the day, it moves on. But listen, this was really good. Short match, 5 minutes, 23 seconds. Obviously, Eddie's getting the win, baby. It's good stuff. It was fun. But man, wild. Absolutely wild.
So Eddie moves on to face the winner of Benoit Regal in 4 weeks at STARRCADE. The ending of this match was Conan going for the Splash Mountain. Eddie tries to counter with the head scissors, but winds up falling on top of Conan instead for the 3. A unique ending. You
Good
and I have
ending.
been talking about this for a while, where we like seeing things end in cradles, and in Darby Allin's with his Last Supper cradle, and matches that don't just end in whatever, whether it be finishing moves or signature moves. We see a little bit of variation of how these matches end, and this was an example of it. And Conan walks away not looking worse for the wear. It's not like he looked like he was weak against Eddie. 2 guys going at it for the U.S. title.
Yeah.
And they both look strong.
Good handshake match afterwards. Both men proud of each other and the work
Yeah.
they did. It was good. It was really good. I like seeing kind of this this luchador-esque match put together. Like, I like seeing Conan and Eddie work. I like the whole, we see in the future, like we get Rey Mysterio and Psychosis. I like the pairing and not so much separation. It's not a Nigel McGuinness versus Eddie Guerrero, even though that would be fucking banging. It's just like, it's one of those things, like, good pairing. It's like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with it.
We get not a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, probably peanut butter and honey, maybe. I'm not sure if it's not.
This is like sun butter.
Tastes bad, but it's not great.
Yeah.
We get Rick Steiner versus Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart in his corner. It was too short, 3 minutes and 17 seconds. But Sting gets involved.
Of course.
So we get Rick throwing Bubba around for a while, and then Sting comes out. Scorpion Death drops him to give Bubba the win. So Big Bubba gets the win over Rick Steiner. This is all because Rick Steiner called him out. And you call Sting out, he appears. Don't talk bad about Sting. Don't get out there and say anything disparaging about the guy who is the vigilante, the ever watcher of WCW. Rick Steiner gets the L here from Big Bubba, and not a good L at that, because Big Bubba is definitely not one of the highly touted main eventers here in WCW.
Yeah, no, shit happens, and you don't fuck with the Stink Man.
And you talked about before Rey Mysterio Jr. and Psychosis. Lead the way in this match. Fuck, man, it was too short. 2 minutes and 20 seconds. What are we taught? Why did they do this?
Too short, not enough. This was like putting just the tip in, This had everything about screaming, talking about this all weekend. Like, my God, did you see Rey Mysterio and Psychosis? No, it was 2 minutes 20 seconds. Ray wins with a Rana, which is cool. It's not bad, but like, fucking Christ, so short. Ultimo Dragon and Uno are out there. Like, it's just, man, it left me salivating for way much more than they showed in the ring, and it wasn't not enough, man. Just the tip.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This match should have had triple the time. It should have went almost 12 minutes. It didn't. This was just to advance the story with Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio for STARRCADE, and to get their feud continued. The J Crown Cup champion or whatever, with all the 8 belts.
WWF lightweight heavyweight champion.
Yeah, WWF is like, wait a minute, that's our belt.
Bischoff's on the phone. We gotta go.
All right, so we had a re-airing of the Piper Hogan contract signing. We don't need to talk about that, but they did kill 15 minutes of the show. It was nice for us. I was able to fast forward right through it.
Yeah.
Upon return of our Nitro live action, we get Jeff Jarrett versus Alex Wright. And I knew you'd be excited. We haven't seen Alex Wright in Nitro in a couple months. It's been quite some time.
Yeah.
He was a consistent staple on WCW Nitro for every week, and he just disappeared, and no idea why. I know he was in Japan for a bit, but just sat on the bench.
He was too busy riding in the Autobahn. He's having a good time. Yeah.
He comes back in a losing effort to Jeff Jarrett. Figure 4, just like that. Jarrett had the ropes, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. A non-memorable match. So some offense from Alex Wright, but this, again, similar to Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis, had potential, just didn't even let it get started.
No, and like, we've seen Alex Wright come in and handle that business of being the guy in the ring that's taking the L, but doing good work. Fuck, man. Like, come on. What are we doing here?
Which gets us to our main event here, Harlem Heat versus the Faces of Fear, and another short match. I mean, it ends in a double DQ. So not to bury the lead here, Jimmy Hart doesn't come around ringside. Tenay puts over the Faces of Fear big time for being on a winning streak, even though they lost 2 matches on pay-per-view by my count, right? They've been losing, but they have been on a roll. If you look at them booking wise, have been presented. you and I are hoping to get that tag title run. I don't think we're going to get it, but they've been in that picture. They were involved in that triple threat match at Halloween Havoc or World War III. They were involved in some big matches.
Yeah.
But they look strong. We get the New World Order coming out to beat up all of them. So the match never really gets going. 4 minutes flat. And we go off the air with NWO standing tall. And then Marcus Bagwell, the new buff Bagwell, is now joining them. Everybody's there except Hogan. Hogan's probably off filming some movie. That being said, we get a double DQ to end Nitro. Your thoughts on how they ended it before we take our shots?
The shits. I mean, this is probably one of the worst endings I think we've seen covering 96. Like this was the last 2 matches before this were shit. This match does not do anything. The only reason why the commentary team's putting over Faces of Fear is because they don't want to get eat backstage with them. Listen, man, I'm right with them. Fucking put them over as much as possible. But you would expect so much more out of a Harlem Heat Faces of Fear match.
Yeah.
But for them, I mean, it's weird how little content we've gotten with so much of the shit. Granted, a lot of the shit in between was World War III recaps, but that doesn't make it okay. Give us one good 15-minute match. Like, why are we sitting here playing this game? Bischoff, what are you doing, man? You're booking the wrong shit. Like, this is that we don't do these no filler matches nowadays.
Get him, Belcaster. Shoot him.
God damn, you be careful. I'm going to kick the door in and knock your dog's teeth loose. But yeah, man, this was a clusterfuck, and not a good Nitro, not a bad Nitro, but just like a lot of meh going on, and too much recapping.
For sure, we got that 50-minute Piper thing. We got all the stills from World War III. Like, listen, we watched it. We don't need to see you guys recap it.
Yeah, I want to see Piper's legs as much as the next guy, but like, but man, how many times we got to see that ska? Don't do that to Piper. Like,
some critical, thinking has me believing since Raw moved from 8 to 9 p.m. that maybe they're not trying as hard for the second hour.
Yeah,
they
true.
The fact that they've moved time slots, they didn't have to go head to head, and competition breeds the best product. And if they're not going head to head with WWF, maybe they want to save everything for the first hour.
Very true.
I don't know. That's just the way I think of it, because they seem like they punted. Like they were like, all right, let's just mail it in. That's what it felt like.
Crazy. Very crazy.
All right, let's move into our second Nitro of the week, December 2nd from Dayton, Ohio, the Hara Arena. So our current champs are all the same. No title switched hands. There wasn't matches long enough to switch hands. Oh, we still got to take our shot. Do you take your shot?
I'm ready to take my shot.
All right, let's go. Let's take our shot.
Cheers, my friend.
All right, so we get our intro, and the first thing I put in my notes is Hogan is still in the intro with the Hulkamania shit. Like,
as I was watching the first Nitro, I had the exact same fucking thought. Like, I seen him ripping the shirt. I was like, why? What are we doing? Like, and I remember it being NWO themed and like having different shit. Like, it was like, why is Hulk? Where's the red? Why is it red and yellow out there, brother? We need to move it on and turn in the Santa Claus of muscles for the theme, man. We're in
December. That's what I thought about the opening. I mean, it's been there every week. It just, for some reason, it came into my mind watching this week. But we get hour number 1 starting. Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko take the helm, and the Steiners interrupt their intro. Tony and Schiavone at the top of the broadcast going through the card. Steiner sends out a challenge to Sting. He's pissed off what happened last week. And they take a flashback. So similar to what you said last week, they use some filler time.
Yeah.
They went back, and then they also showed the Big Bubba match as well.
Ouch.
So, yeah, I mean, this is how you open. This is not how I would open Nitro. It's not how we've been used to opening Nitro.
This is not how Nitro opens. All right. We're used to fucking bangers. This is complete out of the realm here. What are we doing, Bischoff? What is this? This isn't Rampage. What the fuck you doing, Bish?
So with that being said, we open up with Glacier versus Hard Body Harrison.
Feel the breeze.
Glacier is the first guy. This is the guy that you're opening up that's supposed to keep people from turning the channel. This is the guy that they turn on like, all right, what am I watching? Raw?
I was hooked.
Am I watching Nitro? Ray Lloyd had you hooked.
Second the snow came, I was like, fuck yeah, this best episode of Nitro ever. I'm already calling it. This is the best Nitro we've ever covered. It started with fucking Glacier, man.
All right, so spinning roundhouse kick gets the quick 1, 2, 3. A minute flat, timing it here.
Goddamn right.
Glacier gets an appearance every 2 months, and that's it. He gets the win, looks strong, but That's
he's
it.
gonna
That's the opening
defrost.
match. And Hardbody Harrison, from what I understand, was not involved in Triple Mania. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I can look it up. It might be, but I mean, come on. Who? I'm not stealing Canyon's gimmick yet, but who better than Glacier to get that 1 minute fucking fight, man? The guy has presence. He's a commodity, man. He's the Hook of WCW.
So we have our next match here: the Amazing French Canadians taking on Renegade and Joe Gomez. So lead the way here. Talk about this match.
Where am I? Every road you lead me to is a one way. Like it ends in a dead end.
Turn,
yeah, 3-point turn. It was okay. It wasn't anything great. We get the Quebecer crash? Quebecer crash.
Yeah, like Quebec.
It's the
They're from Quebec, you know.
Yeah, Quebec. Yeah, it was okay. The best thing about this match is watching PCO out there doing his thing.
He'll be on Dynamite this week. Mark my words.
Fucking, I hope so, man. It was
Please.
great. He probably will be. They're running in theme with things. If he's not on this Dynamite, he's going to be on the December 2nd episode of Dynamite.
That'd be sick.
Right? It would be
December
really
2nd
cool.
on Wednesday?
It might be. I don't know. I was just talking to my ass there. I'm not a calendar guy,
there.
but good shit. Yeah, it was 3 minutes, 16 seconds. No Steve Austin here. It was just a really quick match. And like, again, PCO. Fucking glad he's still doing it. Along with Tony Danza from AAA. Like, these guys are still out here killing it. It's Mr. Kala. It's good. It was great.
I have nothing to add to the match. I mean, the Amazing French Canadians getting a mini push here. Their tag division is pretty stacked, but, you know, meaningless matches. Renegade and Joe Gomez, they didn't stand a chance. So, yeah, we get Gene Okerlund having Arn Anderson for an interview. AA reminds everybody he destroyed the myth that you can't beat Hulk Hogan, which is funny because we just mentioned that not once but twice. He had, you know, and I think Tony doesn't say it, but we're all thinking it, or Gene Okerlund doesn't say it. Better bring that high heel shoe that got you the win in the first place. So Arn goes on to say that because he didn't take Piper out many years ago, he's going to get his receipt next week on Nitro from Charlotte. Roddy Piper will be on the show, and we dare you to show up Hogan. So, yeah, we may get a little confrontation next week, but they keep pushing and kicking the can down the road. We got to wait. It's another commercial. So,
yeah, it's okay. At least there's no picture-in-picture.
So we have another match here, and it leaves a lot to be desired. If we're moving fast through them, this is why, guys. You can see the results coming past. The Faces of Fear with Jimmy Hart in their corner took on Robert Gibson and Scotty Riggs.
What?
So Scotty Riggs is on his own. So let me get this straight. You put him with Robert Gibson, one half of like another tag team. I just don't understand.
One of the best tag teams of all time, nonetheless. Like, it's fucking weird, and this is a far cry from being part of the flock. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Who booked this shit?
So following this, we get a flashback to where the New World Order ended a Faces of Fear Harlem Heat main event and attacked everybody as we just went off the air. Riggs and Gibson were working on Barbarian's arm. The match continues all the way to the end. Gibson tastes the kick of fear right to the face, and it tastes pretty bad. 7 minutes and 41 seconds. So let me just say right now, you and I were just saying it. It's hard for me to comprehend the booking here.
Yeah.
Even if the Face of Fear are not going to win the belts at STARRCADE, at least make them appear like a threat to everybody else. Why are they wrestling these jobbers? Make your whole show sell, not just the main event. Like, I just don't get why you're having guys just punt. I mean, Renegade and Gomez having a spot here. Hardbody Harrison, Robert Gibson, and Scotty Riggs. This just reeks of, like, you're not thinking it through. Your roster's pretty stacked. So
very, and now you're really taking away from your product when you put on shit like this. Like, this is,
and it continues. I'm surprised, it's not just these 3 nights. It continues.
Oh my goodness, it continues. But I'm surprised nobody's talking. Like, I've never heard somebody say this is a turn point for where WCW could fucking absolutely shit the bed. And these 2 episodes, I mean, we're 96 hasn't been fucking all glitter and, you know, sparkles and fucking fireworks, but what the fuck are they doing here?
So we get a Saturday night commercial, which I do love. I always sit through them. And then we get house show footage of Benoit Sullivan in Baltimore back on November 23rd. So this is pretty much exactly how the match went down at Great American Bash. If you guys remember, forget how it went down, go back and watch our coverage of it, except for the Dungeon Doom attacking Benoit in the bathroom while he's trying to put Sullivan in the crossface. So a backbreaker by the urinal, and then we get back to the ring Woman jumps on Sullivan's back to get him to stop beating up Benoit before the face of fear hold her back, which leads us right into our next match, Kevin Sullivan versus an unnamed jobber. Tony Schiavone has no idea who the jobber's name is. I can't recognize him. Maybe Google Lens has an idea. You'd like take a picture of his face and figure out who he is.
Good call. Good call.
We'll just say he was at Triple Mania this year.
Yeah.
So he has long blonde hair, very straight from the 80s, heavy metal baby. Even that, he looks like Randy the Ram, maybe from The Wrestler.
Yeah. This is Psycho Clown without the mask. I mean,
it's Psycho Clown. Yeah. So this match was 2 minutes. Sullivan, Trio Woe, double stomp, gets the win. And Larry Zbyszko thinks Piper should lead the Dungeon Doom against the New World Order. That's what he says, too. That's what I pulled away from this. Like,
somebody needs to fire Zbyszko. Yeah, and maybe the Dungeon of Doom and possibly half of Piper. I'm not sure where that's going.
We get a confusing promo to cap off a confusing match. Kevin Sullivan just gets on the mic and wants to make it clear that him and Woman are married. Like, maybe there's shoot heat between him and Benoit at this point. But
yeah,
makes it clear they're married and doesn't advance any storylines. What is going on?
This is definitely where that whole you put the foil hats on. This is where the Kevin Sullivan conspiracy theory comes against Chris Benoit and Nancy. I think there is a good group of people that still think Kevin Sullivan is a good part of the conspiracy of the Benoit deaths and stuff.
Yeah, we hear those theories for sure, but
this ain't Cody Rhodes and WWE conspiracy. I won't jump on board with this one. You've met the man. He's a sweetheart. And
Kevin Sullivan's my boy.
Yeah, he's a little teddy bear with the faces of fear here. I don't think anything's changed since then and now.
Unfortunately, I don't have the picture of us still anymore on the
okay.
But I would put it on. But hour number 2.
Ooh.
Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, Mike Tenay. They kick off what is a much better hour of wrestling. Not perfect by any means, but well, first, technically it's in the first hour. We get the Cruiserweight champion Dean Malenko taking on Billy Kidman in what was probably the match of the night by default at this point. Kidman surprises Malenko with a head scissors for a 2 count from the jump. We get a tilt-a-whirl head scissors, puts Malenko to the floor. Kidman hits a pescado, but Malenko moves out of the way and gives Kidman a powerbomb, which was so sick on the outside. And then we get the emergence of Sonny Ono again, making his way down to ringside with a camera. He's scouting Malenko for later on at STARRCADE. And then back in the ring, Malenko delivers a brainbuster for a 2 count. We get another 2 count with a fisherman suplex. Match goes back and forth. Kidman gets caught for the superplex. Malenko heads to the top, blinded by Ono's camera flashing in his face. Kidman goes for the shooting star. Malenko brings the knees up and applies the Texas Cloverleaf for the win. There was a lot of botches in this match. If you watch it, there was like a couple things. You see Kidman still trying to learn. Definitely not Malenko's fault.
He's a baby.
Kidman still, he is a kid. He's a baby face here. This was a glorified squash match, but maybe it's just, rose-colored glasses with how the rest of the card went. This was a breath of fresh air. I'm like, all right, good. Two guys going at it for more than 2 minutes. And Malenko is he's a godsend. Malenko is one of the best wrestlers on the planet.
Can somebody please go back in time and just fix Sonny Ono's gimmick? Like, it's the most stereotypical 1990s fucking, Asian charker. Like, why? Why do we got to do that, man? Especially when you're with the Ultimate Dragon, class it up a little bit. You don't need the whole, a Japanese chef suit looking thing. I'm sorry, that might even be ignorant, but still, like, the guy deserved more. I love Sonny Ono, but put him in a better light.
So, like I was saying before, hour number 2 kicks in. We get Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, Mike Tenay, and the second hour kicks off with Jeff Jarrett versus Big Bubba. These guys get a rematch from the week before or 2 weeks ago. Bubba controls the match to start. We get the same finish that we've been getting. The megaphone comes out from Jimmy Hart. Jarrett drop kicks into his face for the 3. And the finish from 6 weeks ago wasn't 2 weeks ago. It all blends together. It was 2 weeks ago in our world. 6 weeks ago altogether. 4 minutes and 8 seconds. Thoughts on this match?
None. Yeah. There's more stars in a city lit sky than there are that deserve to be in this match. This match was like, again, this is like, really, you would think after a year's worth of really good matches, really solid nitros, really solid pay-per-view matches, this is where we're at. Like, where what happened in the last week, 2 weeks, that this are the 2 nitros we got now? Like, come on, man.
All right, so
Bullshit.
before we get to our next match, which is pretty good, we get the Steiner brothers coming back to get an answer to their challenge from Sting. Rick calls him out from the Raptors, and Sting gives him a nod. So we'll get Sting versus Rick Steiner tonight. And after we come back from commercial break, Scott Hall, Nash, Eric Bischoff, Six and Vincent appear as well, but they leave right away, come out to take over the announce table. So they want the hour of Nitro, and they're about 10 minutes late. They continue to talk about Piper not wanting any piece of Hogan. Bischoff uses this time to take shots at WWF's the man they call Vader by saying Hogan handled him pretty easily. They show a clip from Slamboree 95 where Hogan clotheslines him down.
A year ago.
More footage of the time NWO beat down Flair and took his U.S. belt. Your thoughts on them just taking a shot where obviously Vader's being pushed in a big way at this point? Doesn't end well for Vader and WWF, but at the time, sadly, because Vader is one of the best big men. RIP to Vader.
Hell yeah.
One of the three best big men in history of wrestling. It's, to me, Bam Bam, Vader right there for two of the best ever.
100%. Weird,
right?
Very weird. Like not called for, especially in the second hour. Like, who gives a shit? And
you're winning the ratings war. You're at this point 23 weeks, 24 weeks in a row. Like, why poke the bear?
Yeah, this is like Twitter trolls nowadays. Is basically what they were doing. They got up there like, "Fuck this guy. Let's throw back the Hogan a year and a half ago, beating Vader." Like, stupid.
Like, everybody doesn't know that it's a predetermined activity. Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
Fucking marks.
My guy beats your guy. He used to be our guy.
We make all the money, brother.
All right, so Eddie Guerrero versus Squire David Taylor. Lead the way here, but just keep in mind they are hyping up everybody in WCW has 3 weeks left to convert their contracts to NWO or else. This is the threat.
It's such
Hall and Nash talk about wanting to bring an Englishman into the NWO. So Squire David Taylor is a huge piece. And they were showing a split screen during this match, too, while this is going on. They couldn't give a shit about what was going on in the ring.
No, and I mean, rightfully so. It was not that great of a match, but at the same time, you don't take away from things like you should have put the spotlight on the match with everything in the background. What's up with this contract thing? It's so weird. It's such a random clause. Like, I have no recollection of this from when being a kid. I don't remember them like giving a threat. You got 30 days,
Taylor,
bro.
Really? They want David Taylor.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, Eddie, of course, wins the match. David Taylor had. Sorry, Lord Squire David Taylor had
put some respect on his name.
Yeah, put some goddamn respect on David Taylor's name. He had nothing going for him. It was a very quick match, 2 minutes 13 seconds quick, and it was just meh.
You have Eddie Guerrero on your roster too. Like, mix it up a little bit. Let's have Eddie Guerrero take on somebody else, and like, I don't know. It just seems like their roster is way too bloated, and they don't have the excuse of saying that. There's people in Japan. There's people elsewhere. Like, you have all the guys in-house, and I know Hogan's not there, but we got to have better matchups than this, and at least let them go out. I'm sure David Taylor could work more than 2 minutes. You could have something go on.
Yeah, I mean, what a shame pre-World War III. Eddie Guerrero was going out here doing 10-minute matches, 7-minute matches, 5-minute matches. You throw him in here with a 2-minute match. Fuck, man.
And if you're a fan, too, that you have been waiting for WCW to come to Dayton, Ohio, and you're like, I can't wait for them to come. The product's been hot as ever. And this is what they roll out there. Glacier versus Hardbody Harrison, French Canadians versus Renegade and Joe Gomez, the Face of Fear versus Robert Gibson and Scotty Riggs, Kevin Sullivan versus a jobber. Okay, Cruiserweight Championship, Dean Malenko versus Billy Kidman. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
But then you go, like, this is what you were putting out to your live audience. And at the time, if you're there, first time seeing WCW, like, I got a ticket, I got to check this out. And then this is what they put out there, someone turned away. Like, I'm not coming back. Bullshit. We're here because, we're covering it and we know how good it can be, but this is the shit. The last 2 episodes.
Yeah, no, this is it's a little rough, They're not treating us with no respect, I'm telling you.
All right, so we have Arn Anderson taking on Jim Powers in another really short match. Arn gets the win. No need to really cover it. We see the ending. Powers hits the knee lift and the drop kick for a 2 count. Arn Anderson no sells it pretty much. Hits the DDT. And then Scott Hall on commentary says Arn Anderson can play on his team anytime, so they're trying to woo, despite all the differences between the Horsemen and the NWO.
Yeah.
They would take Arn on their team.
And Arn retiring and just...
Yeah. This is not another good... I mean, again, garbage match, less than 5 minutes. I guess the story was the commentary team. I guess that's what they were trying to get over the whole night.
Yeah,
These guys are trying to recruit talent. But
yeah, it's weird. It's just fucking... It's a... You put a bad taste in my mouth, Bishop. The fuck, man.
All right, so luckily we have a good match here to cover. Benoit versus Steven Regal. These guys have great commentary. You cover this match. It went a decent amount of time considering, and I think it's part of the U.S. title tournament too, so it had some stakes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this was probably the best you can get. This might have been the show stealer. Benoit, Steven Regal, obviously William Regal, just the best. Two great guys going in there, respect for each other, kicks the shit out of each other. I mean, we got everything short of the kitchen sink here. It was decent, but it was short, man. It was 6 minutes, 27 seconds. Not bad. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I mean, it just wasn't enough, man. And I mean, we get Benoit moving on, and it's just like, come on, like we could have done a little bit better with this, just a little bit better.
Agreed. I mean, these guys should go 16 minutes, especially on a night filled with squash matches. They should let these guys just go like, all right, give people something to grasp onto and make the U.S. Championship tournament feel important.
This would have been a great match for the NWO to be like, these are two guys we really want in our stable. These them put them over. This is their opportunity to utilize the commentary team of Nash and Hall to put people over. And who's going to put somebody over better than, the NWO at this time? Like, if they were like, man, these guys are the best in the business, bro. Listen, I want Chris Benoit on our side of things. Look how good he is. Fucking suplex, fucking diving headbutt. Amazing. This guy's a killer. No pun intended, but like, fuck, man. Like, it was good, but it could have been so much better, man.
Yeah, by default, it probably was match of the night. Not to just get ahead of ourselves, but it was. I mean, there's no other way around it. Like, just because there were so many matches that were 2 minutes or a minute and a half or 3 minutes at maximum, this match went almost 7, and two guys that work really hard and guys that are two of the best workers in the history of wrestling. There's no disputing that, despite the whatever outside of the ring. Regal and Benoit, at any given time, these guys could have a good match in their sleep. So if they gave them a little bit more time, I think it'd be better. But for what it was, I think it was good. And it was for the tournament, and Benoit advances, wins with a German suplex, which cool. I mean, good finish to the match.
Yeah, and it's just like prom night. The length is not always important. It's about the girth. But this match had a little bit of both, and it was okay, man.
So following this match, Gene Okerlund has Arn Anderson, Steve McMichael, Deborah, and Chris Benoit backstage for an interview. Benoit just finished his match. So they're talking about this NWO trying to recruit WCW members. And if WCW is looking for leaders, the Horsemen will be more than happy to take the job. Mongo gets on Benoit for getting involved with women, and Deborah has to run her mouth about it too. Arn finishes up the segment to say they would rather be a Horseman than anything else. So solidifying that despite the New World Order wanting to recruit them, they are Horsemen for life, which I thought was important to establish that, because the NWO is not the only stable here that's important in WCW. The Horsemen is the legacy of WCW.
Yeah, as we'll see continued out through 97, which, again, damn shame we didn't get to see a little bit more of it. But I mean, the Horsemen are the guys. Especially when Flair comes back, you get a lot of good content there with the Horsemen going after NWO and vice versa. That's when we see Kevin Nash with the cooler and the neck brace coming out as Arn Anderson doing his fucking awesome promo. And there's a lot of good back and forth between the Horsemen and NWO still. A year later, it's some of the best shit ever. I mean, that's one of my most acclaimed fall brawls is 1997. Like, the best. And it's crazy that it's just like, it's so lackluster right now.
So we continue our squash-tacular night of wrestling. Lex Luger taking on Rocco Rock with Johnny Grunge in his corner. So if you're going to keep Public Enemy employed, why are they working singles match? I'll never know. This match goes the way you think it's going to go. Rocco gets caught in the torture rack. Luger gets the win. 3 minutes and 56 seconds. Rocco tries to do some boxing and beats on Luger in the corner. Like, this might have been my least favorite part of the show, and there's been a lot of shit. This was horrible.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the least part of
what?
Maybe 1996 Shadow Nostalgia.
I feel like we should just take a shot because it sucked. Like,
I got a little bit left. I'm done.
All right, fuck it. Let's just take a shot. All right, I gotta pour it for myself. God, like, we should add a metric where it's like if it's less than a minute, if it's a squash match, we should just take a shot.
Well,
right.
we're not going to hit that with ECW. I understand that. We might get some squash matches, but they're not going to be too many minute matches. God, I can't even talk. Fuck this. Why? You said it so good. Like, why keep them on the roster? What are we doing? Why are we putting Rock in a match versus Lex Luger? For what reason?
Well, speaking of not having any reason for doing this stuff, they've been hyping up Sting versus Rick Steiner all night. They had the whole segment where they were interacting and challenged them, built it up. And damn, we never even get the match. Sting versus Rick Steiner never happens. It's a no contest. Yeah, I mean, Bischoff and Nash were making fun of Scott Steiner for being so big. Sting enters the ring through the crowd, tosses his ball bat aside, and turns his back on Rick to give him a free shot. And then the NWO get involved. Like, what? So Sting walks over to the announce table and points his bat at the NWO, and everyone's confused. I mean, I do like Sting getting involved, but let's have a little bit of a match here. And
yeah, something. Bold move, Cotton. Bold.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the match never even gets started. Did the bell even ring? Not even sure.
No, I have no recollection of bells ringing except for the bell for time to shut the shit off. It was weird. Yeah, I mean, how do you have such a prolific roster of these top names, and this is what you do to close your Nitro off? Like, talk about the names: Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff, Sting, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner. This is what we do.
You can even mash up some of the talent here on this show and make for a better show. And you could have closed it off with a good night and like made people in Dayton, Ohio go home happy with the Sting versus Rick Steiner. And I know you saw interactions with Hall and Nash and Sting, and they're trying to really sell that Sting potentially could join the NWO. But there's a way to do it, not the expense of the in-ring work, especially after all night of just squash matches. There was not a match that went above 7 minutes. I think the longest match was 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And if I'm a live audience member, goddamn, and Hogan's not even there too. So you're left wanting so much more. And they go off the air and they're shilling the new Outsider shirts, which is the now famous shirt, one of the better shirts. I don't think they sell it on WWE Shop, but that is one of the better shirts we've seen. I mean, the NWO shirt's great, but the Outsider shirt, that is perfection as well.
Clutch. Yeah. I mean, that was definitely a top seller for me. I think I bought 2 of them back in the day. Good shit.
So, like I mentioned, Sting leaves through the crowd, and while Hall and Nash are talking about the new shirts, and we get matches hyped up for STARRCADE on December 29th, which will be on our finale show. The main event will be WCW World Heavyweight Champion Hogan defending his title against Roddy Piper. The World Tag Team Championship on the line, the Outsiders versus Faces of Fear. And the Cruiserweight Champion, Dean Malenko, versus the J Crown Champion, Ultimo Dragon. Just the Cruiserweight Championship on the line, not all the 8 other belts on the line. So
no light heavyweight championship for them.
No, they don't get it. So that closes up our Nitros, and we're going to get into Chaser. We're going to have to pick our 2 favorite parts or 1 favorite part or no favorite parts of the 2 nights of Nitro. All right. We will make our best effort to pick our favorite part of the 2 nights of Nitro. Belcaster, start us off. What was your favorite part of note here for WCW Nitro from November 25th and December 2nd?
Well, with the buffet that WCW has presented us with tonight, there's so many different things to choose from, but just on recent knowledge, Tony Penna, Tony Danza,
hell yeah,
Villano, he gets the love this week, man. Guy who worked in... He started wrestling in 1979, and he just fucking closed out AAA with Penta. That's it. He's my pick. Nothing else. That's it. He is the king of...
It blew my mind.
We need to clip him. We need to fucking tag him in this. We need to make this a reel, a short, whatever you guys call it nowadays. You kids are too fancy with all your short clips. But goddamn, Tony Penna, Villano 6. I might have that wrong. It's Villano IV. I'm not a Roman numerals guy.
4 is IV.
4 IV. There. Maybe he's just lacking liquids.
WrestleMania talking. I know Roman numerals.
Fair enough. My goodness, yeah. The Villano 4. Tony Penna, man. Guy. Tony Danza. You won my heart over.
I would say my favorite part was you popping me huge with that. I would probably say my other favorite part was Chris Benoit versus Stephen Regal in the U.S. tournament. That was
very well. Yeah.
And again, we probably have these rose-colored glasses of just wanting to see any level of wrestling, but that match delivered, in my opinion, on the short amount of time they got. And that's really it. I mean, dude, we just watched 4 hours of content of just nothing happened. Like no push towards Hogan Piper. We got no appearance from Hogan, no appearance from Piper. We did get an explanation from Bischoff why he joined the New World Order. So I guess that's the meaningful stuff. Other than that, this is 2 episodes of Nitro that I'm glad you guys joined us, but you could have skipped over these 2 Nitros as far as succession of understanding the plot lines. There was not much going on here.
Yeah, I even hung up on Lee Marshall. Like, I had no fucking care to be on the phone with him this week.
I purposely skip over it. I refuse to acknowledge it here in our recap.
Like, hi, I'm Lee Marshall. This is brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I'm not talking about On the Road with Lee Marshall. And if you guys notice, I skip over it on a weekly basis. I refuse. Because we covered the Colonel Rob Parker and the Sensational Sherry stuff with the wedding. Yeah. Going back, now that we know what we know, I'm skipping the shit. Like,
yeah, nope, absolutely.
I'm not putting myself through it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's close the tab. Let's hype up everything. Let's get our weekend started. Halloween weekend, baby. Let's put our costumes on. Let's turn the lights on in the bar, and let's get ready to close the tab. All right, just so you know, I still have to take my shot for that last no contest, so I got to take that shot.
As Eric Bischoff says, roll out of booze. Nothing short of Halloween weekend, though. There'll be plenty of booze coming this Monday, it's not going to be a Nitro, so there's not going to be any booing happening. But maybe on Monday Night Raw, we shall see.
All right, so Mike Belcaster, give me what's going on in the Belcaster world, Fig Night. Everything going on with you? Any new figures you got? If you want to show off that new figure, unless you want to save it, I'm not.
I'll give a little tease for it because baby. You guys. But I'm going to be opening up this bad boy, the Walmart exclusive, the one and only, the Forbidden Door of action figures. Cody Rhodes.
What do you guys want to talk about?
What do you guys want to talk about, baby? Yeah, but we got AEW Unrivaled Supreme, one of the best lines you could possibly get. I will be opening this up this Tuesday on Fig Night. For all our figure entrepreneurs, all of our figureheads out there, we love it. We want you to join us and hang out. And I mean, this is the last, and I'm 99% sure this is the very last AEW Cody Rhodes we will have for some time. So come watch me open it up. It's cool. It's got some different colored trunks. Lots of good shit. But we got Fig Night. We got the wrap up. I was out of business yesterday. I'm excited to be back this week, especially after that scathing, beautiful episode this week. It was gorgeous. MJF doing his thing, coming up, babyface MJF rocking it out. So I'm excited to be back with y'all, and obviously shot of nostalgia. Come on, man, you know the drill, baby. The number one show here at the Turnbuckle Tavern, obviously.
So yeah, we'll be returning next week with episode 29. It is our lead up, our sub finale, and we might be covering 3 episodes of Nitro and then making the finale. We're gonna reformat it, so I'll let you guys know. But either way, we'll be on our way to just covering the last few weeks of WCW 1996, believe it or not. So stay tuned with us. It's been a fun ride, but of course we have ECW coming up as well. So we have the schedule here. I'll show you guys the schedule. It does start on November 18th with double tables, and we're going to be going for 13 weeks straight. So believe it or not, November 2022 is here. When we made this graphic, it was so far away. Here it is. We're going to be talking about 1995, and despite Dave Meltzer's critique on what goes on in ECW, I'm very much looking forward to this, so that's gonna be awesome. So can't wait to get into it with you.
I'm very looking forward to hoodies and choke slams.
Yeah,
which is one of the best fucking names for a show ever.
Very akin to GCW, so I can't wait to get into that. And like I mentioned as well, I don't have the graphic yet, but I'll be returning to VPW on November 19th. It's the same day as Full Gear, so my responsibilities to the tavern and to Victory Pro Wrestling will be live there. I'll be there setting up a table. If you want to consume live wrestling and you're not going to see AEW, come out to Bayshore, New York. For Disorderly Conduct VPW, Jack Tomlinson will be there live in person defending his world championship. Don't have the match card yet, but I'll be handing out stickers, handing out keychains, setting up shop there, and maybe filming some content. So I'll be there myself. Come say hi. I appreciate everybody that did. And like I said on the wrap, I want to thank everybody for all their love and support for, the debut I made for Remarkable Wrestling at Haunted Halloween Havoc. That was a joy to be out there announcing, and such a great card, such talented wrestlers, and it was fun to be a part of. And I'm looking forward to working with Remarkable Wrestling going forward. So stay tuned for any new cards, and once that happens, I will promote them going forward. And those guys are amazing, so definitely check them out as well. So stay tuned to my Instagram,
dude. If you guys missed out, iwtv.com, they have the replay. I mean, you can go up there and listen to Ace do some of the best goddamn ring announcing I think I've ever heard. And I will put him above myself.
Stop it.
Slightly.
Don't you do that. Don't you do
because as Raven likes to say, I like to yell too much, but whatever. It's okay. You did a great job, man. The clips you sent me were fantastic. I'm still awaiting my time to order it on IWTV. A phenomenal job. Great debut from the ace himself. Stephen Acefield, man, you fucking knocked it out of the park. Couldn't be prouder of my little protege.
You're a talented dude that's been in the business for doing things like this for a long time. So your words mean a lot to me. So I do appreciate the kind words.
Hell yeah. Happy.
Also, speaking of this, we have another Visit the Tavern. So the cause of it all, as above, so below. Joey Conway, November 18th, visits the tavern. So stay tuned for that. He's the reigning NYWC Fusion champion, fresh off his win against Man Bun Jesus in the casket match. With the help of Tavern Brethren, man, the Slime Balls got involved, and they helped Joey Conway continue his reign as Fusion champion. He'll be joining us. We're going to be asking him the hard-hitting questions. He is a horror movie fanatic. He likes building muscle cars. So we're going to not be talking just about wrestling. We're going to be talking about his other interests. He's a very eclectic guy, so I'm looking forward to having him on here. Future megastar in wrestling. Mark my words. He's going to be doing big things. So get ahead of the curve. Check him out here in on the tavern. And again, go back and check out Ninja Mac, who visited the tavern with the Two Bad Chads. And that was awesome to see him taking some time out of his busy schedule in Japan, early morning. The conversation was great. And kudos to Chads. It's two of the best in the business doing interviews. And they get to the bottom of some information that a lot of different interviews, they're not asking those typical questions. Of course, they get the information you want to hear, but they're asking questions that really make Ninja Mac dive deep, and I was fascinated by the content we got. So shout out to the Chads for that.
100%, man. Nobody does it better than the Chads, and nobody better for them to do it with than Ninja Mac himself. I mean, guy is a legend in the making. We've been following him on the fucking GCW show for the last couple months, and guy is just my number one pick almost every time for bad motherfucker of the week. Like, the guy is just so good. And it's awesome to hear a little bit more about it, to kind of get a breakdown behind the character himself. I mean, he won me over at Bloodsport when he took the mask off, the boots off, and just got ready to roll. And I mean, this is just as intimate as that is. So please make sure you guys go check that out.
Yeah, and he talks a little bit about that Bloodsport stuff too, and Josh Barnett and all that stuff that went into it. So I'm not going to give you guys more information than that. Either check out the audio version available where you can find podcasts, or also check it on YouTube. But speaking of where you can find everything we offer, the turnbuckletavern.com, all these different platforms, please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're about 6 away from 1,000 at this moment. We're at 994. We could be above that, but we want to get to 1,000. The climb has been slow and steady, but once we reach 1,000, I think the sky's the limit. So just help us get there. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. We're posting content everywhere. This is streaming on Twitch. If that's your thing, we're here. Just give us love. Leave a review.
Yeah.
Just give it back. We're giving you hours of free content. Join the community. It's a positive community of pro wrestling fans. All but like-minded. We have yeah, exactly. For the most part, we all have different opinions on wrestling, but at the end of the day, we all have a passion for it. And there's no group of people more passionate than the Turnbuckle Tavern. We're churning out hours of content, whether you're looking for your fix of, WWE, you want coverage on New Japan, you want just debate questions, or you want AEW, we got you covered. So please just do us a favor and like and subscribe. That's, I feel like that's not too much to ask for.
No, listen, it takes you 2 seconds. Just got to click a button and just love us.
Click it. It's right down here. Come on.
Yeah. That little beautiful, thick red thing. Even hit that bell while you're at it. The Bellcaster is going to tell you to hit the bell because that's my fucking job. But I mean, you want to be up to date with all the fucking ongoings here down at the Turnbuckle Tavern. You know where to find us. You know the drill. We're not going to sit here and chill all night. We just want your love and attention. So just a little bit, okay?
All right, guys. Well, that's all we got for you, Belcaster. It's a pleasure, man. We'll be back for episode 29. But I got Eric Bischoff in my ear. He's part of the NWO. He's yelling at me. He's so mean now.
We have 30 days.
He used to be
30
so
days
nice.
to get the fuck out of here, or else we become NWO people or get booted.
He's in my ear, and he's telling me all these mean things. He's yelling at me, calling me. I don't even know what he's saying, but we gotta go. We're out of time.